So much for Democrats protecting democracy after the Supreme Court reinforced President Trump's power to end temporary protected status for Haitian migrants. Socialist New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani came out in defiance, saying he will ignore the Supreme Court.
This city, the one that we love, is one that has been built by so many from so many different parts of the world. And that includes our Haitian brothers and sisters, our Syrian brothers and sisters. If you are worried about what this means for your status, if you're worried about what this means for your family, I would encourage you to call our Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs hotline.
Joining me now, Pennsylvania Democratic Senator John Fetterman. Senator Fetterman, I've not heard that before. An elected official saying that they are never going to accept a Supreme Court ruling. That's Mamdani.
Well, I mean, people might remember just in the spring of 2025, now there were a lot of people that were convinced that we were in the middle of a constitution crisis. And I described to the media and other people and said, well, actually what a real constitutional crisis is then if the president defies a court ruling, whether a court or definitely the Supreme Court, then that by definition, that would be a constitutional crisis. And I said, we've not seen one, and I honestly don't expect one. And as far as I know, the Trump administration has not defied any of those court rulings, if you can correct if that's right. And now there was a meltdown, and a lot of the left media was angry at me for just describing those circumstances. But I haven't seen the freak out now that the mayor of New York is now saying, I'm going to defy the Supreme Court ruling. And many of the members in my party are not calling him out and saying, or defend him, or just say, yeah, we really actually have to follow the court rulings, because unless that's a constitutional crisis, when you have the leader of the country's largest city, then we're not going to follow or honor what the Supreme Court says.
Yeah, a constitutional crisis comes when you defy the Constitution, and they are a third branch of government, an independent one, indeed. I want to ask you about some of these socialist candidates. I've heard about 15 times from some Democrats. There's only 3 in New York. That's it. It's just a New York problem. Not true. It's in Seattle. It's in D.C. And then there's this candidate for DSA. She's a DSA congressional candidate in Colorado. This person has made excuses for 9/11, declined to call the Boulder fire bombing against Jews anti-Semitic. This is not just a New York problem.
Yeah, I mean, do people remember when somebody literally firebombed a group of Jews outside, and a person died? And now she refused to describe that as even anti-Semitic. Like how crazy that is. That's what I've been maintaining, that the left parts of my party has become anti-Israel and now essentially Jew as well too. Now when someone's firebombing people, you can't even criticize or call people out that this person is running for Congress and could possibly join, the new class, just like the ones in the New York City, the people that describe America as an effing disgrace and would wipe her face with the flag and all these awful things that they've said. That's what I'm saying is that call this out. Now, I have a lot of Democrats that are great Democrats, and now they have views that are compatible, but they're not radical kinds of things. But there's a significant part of our party that's getting taken over with these extreme views, whether it's P. Hustle in Maine or the new squad coming in out of New York City, or the guy in Colorado. That's the direction that our party's going.
Indeed. I mean, I still can't believe that only 13 House Democrats signed on to Pride in the United States, Capitalism, and Strong Borders. They called it a pledge, a promise to America. Just 13. There's 199 House Democrats that did not. Does that surprise you?
What I'm saying is, like, being patriotic now is becoming, partisan right now. You look at the kinds of polls right now, I think 18% of Democrats were intensely proud to be American or proud of the country. And that's truly absurd. I mean, you don't have to agree with everyone that's in the White House or some other things. I will always remain intensely proud of our nation and where we are. We are the good guys, in the fight. It's not Iran. It's not Hamas. It's not It's not Hezbollah or these other kinds of countries too. So for me, it's very, very sad. Now, even just being patriotic now has become a partisan thing.
It is. Final question for you. You asked where are the other Senate Democrats joining you in calling this out, and you found one. Senator Alyssa Slotkin came out calling for new leadership, seeming to call out the socialist wing of the party. She's more of a moderate Democrat. So you have one colleague there who's standing with you. Do you think others will come on board?
Well, I'm not really super familiar with what her views are, but I'll be the one Democrat, at least in the caucus, that will call out P. Hustle with a Nazi tattoo, or that roughed up his former girlfriends, or that spent a decade on the Kick social media, or I'll actually call out some of these people in the New York that extreme these kinds of views, that they want to abolish the ICE or police or prisons, or and actually, she was the lead of the organization that called for the end of Western civilization. And these aren't smears from me. That's just describing the things just recently, just in 2024. These were these kind of views. And people in New York in that district decided that's the best version of what we want to project, in America. Is truly absurd. It's astonishing. I'm not necessarily as surprised, though. That's the direction, and I would expect that's going to continue to accelerate.
Appreciate the common sense, as always. Senator John Fetterman, thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.